Okay, hi everyone, welcome back to this video series on the Comptia Security Plus course. Trojan Horses. Trojan horses, or simply Trojans, appear to perform desirable functions, but they are actually performing malicious functions behind the scenes. These are not technically viruses and can easily be downloaded without being noticed. They can also be transferred to a computer by the way of removable media, especially USB flash drives. One example of a Trojan is a file that is contained within or downloaded programs such as a key generator, such as keygen, used with pirated software or another executable. If the user complain about slow performance and numerous antivirus alerts, and they recently installed a questionable program from the internet or from a USB flash drive, their computer could be infected by a Trojan. Remote access Trojans, RATs, are the most common type of Trojan, example of which include Black Orifice, NetBus and Sub7. Their capability to allow an attacker higher administrative privileges than those of the owner of the system makes them quite dangerous. The software acts as a remote administration tool, which happens to be another name for the RAT acronym. These programs have the ability to scan for unprotected hosts and make all kinds of changes to a host when connected. They are not necessarily designed to be used maliciously, but are easy for an average person to download and manipulate computers with. Worse, when a target computer is controlled by an attacker, it could easily become a robot or simply a bot carrying out plans of the attacker on command. We'll discuss bots later in this chapter. Rats are can also be coded in PHP or other languages to allow remote access to websites. An example of this is the web shell, which has many permutations. It allows an attacker to remotely configure a web server without the user's consent. Quite often, the attacker will have cracked the FTP password in order to upload the RAT. Rats are often used to persistently target a specific entity, such as a government or specific corporation. One example of this is the PlugX rat. Malicious software such as this is known as Advanced Persistent Threat (APT). Groups that have vast resources at their disposal might make use of these APTs to carry out objectives against large-scale adversaries. APT groups could take the form of large-scale hacker factions and even some corporations and governments around the globe. Ransomware. Some less than reputable persons use a particularly devious malware known as ransomware, a type of malware that restricts access to a computer system and demands a ransom be paid, also known as crypto malware. It encrypts files and or locks a system. It then informs the user that in order to decrypt the files or unlock the computer to regain access to the files, a payment would have to be made to one of several banking services, often overseas. It often propagates as a Trojan or worm and usually makes use of encryption to cause the user's files to be inaccessible. This usage of encryption is also known as crypto-viral extortion. One example of this is CryptoLocker. This ransomware Trojan encrypts certain files on the computer's drive using an RSA public key. The counterpart private key is stored on the malware creator server. Though the Trojan can be easily defeated by being either quarantined or removed, the files remain encrypted and are nearly impossible to decrypt given the strength of the RSA key. Payment is often required in voucher form or in the form of a cryptocurrency such as Bitcoin. Ransomware attackers grew steadily for several years until 2013, when CryptoLocker and other similar ransomware Trojans appeared. Now hundreds of thousands of computers worldwide are affected each year. Spyware. Spyware is a type of malicious software either downloaded unwittingly from a website or installed along with some other third-party software. Usually this malware collects information about the user without the user's consent. Spyware could be as simple as a piece of code that logs what websites you access, or go as far as a program that records keystrokes known as a keylogger. Spyware is also associated with advertising. These pop-ups that just won't go away and is sometimes related to malicious advertising or malvertising. The use of internet-based advertising, legitimate and illegitimate, to distribute malicious software. Spyware can possibly change the computer configuration without any user interaction. For example, redirecting a browser to access websites other than those wanted. Hardware usually falls into the realm of spyware because it pops up advertisements based on what it has learned from spying on the user. Greyware is another general term that describes applications that are behaving improperly but without serious consequences. It is associated with spyware hardware and joke programs. One example of many of spyware is the Internet Optimizer, which redirects Internet Explorer error pages out to other websites' advertising pages. Spyware can even be taken to the next level and be coded in such a way to hijack a person's computer. Going beyond this, spyware can also be used for cyber espionage, as was the case with Red October, which was installed to users' computer when they unwittingly were redirected to websites with special PHP pages that exploited a Java flaw, causing the download of the malware. Rootkits. A rootkit is a type of software designed to gain administrator level control over a computer system without being detected. The term is a combination of the words root, meaning root user in a Unix Linux system, or administrator in a Windows system, and kit, meaning software kit. Usually the purpose of a rootkit is to perform malicious operations on a target computer at a later date without the knowledge of the administrators or users of that computer. A rootkit is a variation on the virus that attempts to dig into the lower levels of the operating system components of the OS, then that start up before any anti-malware services come into play. Rootkits can target the UEFI, BIOS, bootloader, kernel, and many more. An example of a bootloader rootkit is the Evil Maid attack. This attack can extract the encryption keys of a full disk encryption system, which we discuss more later. Another more current example is the Allurian kit, which affects the master boot record MBR and low-level system drivers such as API.sys. This particular rootkit was distributed by a botnet and affected over 200,000 known Microsoft operating systems. Rootkits are difficult to detect because they are activated before the operating system has fully booted. A rootkit might install hidden files, hidden processes, and hidden user accounts. Because rootkits can be installed in hardware or software, they can intercept data from network connections, keyboards, and so on. Spam. Have you ever received an email asking you to send money to some strange person in some faraway country, or an email offering extremely cheap Rolex watches or the next best penny stock? All of these are examples of spam. Spam is the abuse of electronic message systems such as email, texting, social media, broadcast media, instant messaging, and so on. Spammers send unsolicited bulk messages indiscriminately, usually without benefit to the actual user, because the majority of spam is either deflected or ignored. Companies with questionable ethics condone this type of marketing, usually set up as a pyramid scheme so that people at the top of the marketing chain can benefit. However, it's usually not worthwhile for the actual person who sends out spam. The most common form of spam is email spam, which is one of the worst banes of network administrators. Spam can clog up resources and possibly cause a denial of service to an email server if there is enough of it. It can also mislead users in an attempt at social engineering, and the bulk of network-based viruses are transferred through spam emails. Yikes. The worst type of spam is when a person uses another organization's email server to send the spam, obviously illegal. It can also create legal issues for the organization that owns the email server. A derivative of spam is called spam. Spam over instant messaging is the abuse of instant messaging systems, chat rooms, and chat functions in games specifically. It is also known as messaging spam or IM spam. So I'm going to leave it here today for this video. If you like listening, please consider like, sharing, and subscribing. Thank you.